Get ready, it is almost showtime. 6 days until candidates take the debate stage, but the gloves are already coming off. The main target, frontrunner Joe Biden, the former vice president, under fire after citing the work he did with segregationist senators as an example of the civility that used to exist in Congress. Speaking at a fundraiser in New York City Tuesday night, Biden told the crowd this: "I was in a caucus with James O. Eastland. He never called me boy. He always called me son. Herman Talmadge, one of the meanest guys I ever knew." Well, guess what? At least there was some civility. We got things done. We didn't agree on much of anything, but we got things done. But today, you look at the other side, and you're the enemy, not the opposition, the enemy. We don't talk to each other anymore. Many 2020 contenders, including Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris, quickly responded to Biden's comments, suggesting that he was celebrating segregationists. Senator Cory Booker went one step further, asking Joe Biden to apologize. But it does not seem like an apology is coming anytime soon. Last night, while speaking to reporters before a campaign event in Maryland, Biden doubled down on his comments.
How does it feel that your Democratic rivals are implicitly saying that you have issues talking about race?
They know better.
Are you going to apologize like Cory Booker has called for?
For what?
Cory Booker's called for it.
Cory should apologize. He knows better. There's not a racist bone in my body. I've been involved in civil rights my whole career. Period. Period. Period.
That answer did not satisfy Senator Cory Booker.
What matters to me is that a guy running to be the head of our party, which is a significantly diverse and wondrous party, doesn't understand or can't even acknowledge that he made a mistake. Whether the intention was there or not, he knows better. And at a time when Donald Trump never apologizes for anything and starts to create that kind of, I think, toxic sentiment that you never apologize, never apologize, never apologize. I know Joe Biden. He's better than this.
Here to weigh in, Michael Steele, former senior advisor to Jeb Bush. Jason Johnson, politics editor and sharp dresser at TheRoot.com and an MSNBC contributor. And the one and only Donnie Deutsch, branding aficionado and the host of the must-see show Saturday Night Politics here on MSNBC. Jason, I turn to you first. Joe Biden was not applauding or complimenting the segregationists. The point he was trying to make was, these are the deplorables of the deplorables, but for the country, because that's what we're here to do, I found a way to even work with them.
Right. So here's the problem. It's not about what you mean. It's about what people hear. Trent Lott learned this lesson 14 years ago. I don't think Trent Lott was praising segregationists. He was praising another senator, and he was saying what a great guy he was in an interpersonal way, and George Bush kicked him out of office. Joe Biden needs to realize the political environment that he is in. He needs to be more responsible. And here's the other thing. This inability to say, I'm sorry, this inability to say, all right, look, guys, this is what I actually meant one way or another, that is a problem. And a core of this, when he's saying civility, when he's saying I can work with these people, an underlying message of Joe Biden's campaign has always been, I'm a white guy and I'm going to be able to work with these people, and that's not going to work with Mitch McConnell.
You know, it's very interesting when you have a black guy and a white guy talking. And
it happens.
We are hearing, the reality is this, I'm hearing it as a white guy, you're hearing it as a black guy. So I hear that, and I have to show a sensitivity the same way if something is being talked about in the Holocaust, I'm a Jew, somebody else not going to hear it. What I heard, though, was basically the way Steph set it up. It was right. There was no celebration. He called them mean. It was a strictly, look, those are bad guys. I got to work with bad guys to make good things happen.
Right.
That's what this white guy's ears heard. So, once again, I can't say to you, no, you can't be offended by it or you can't think it's wrong. I did not see a scenario there as I was listening to it. I was like, it'd be the equivalent today. Let's say there's a wall hawk. And ICE, let's quadruple down on ICE. And to me, that is today's definition of segregation. Would I not sit down with him? No. I would try and beat him or her to a game and fix the problem.
Here's the thing. As a black guy who lives in this country...
Isn't it great we could say white guy, black guy?
as a black guy who lives in this country, I hear what white people hear too because I have to.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I don't disagree with you. I'm talking about it from a strategic standpoint. Okay. I know what Joe Biden meant, but he's got to recognize he's got 20 people who are gunning for him, and he keeps giving them ammunition to shoot him down whenever he says something like this.
Between what politicians, I think the average American, black, white, green, purple, can hear that and understand what he was saying.
The average American is not paying any attention. The average American hears that Joe Biden made another gaffe about race and refused to say he's sorry. That's how this is trickling down 6 days before a debate where he's going to be on stage with Senator Harris. And he's going to have to explain
Let me flip it one more time. If that wasn't being lensed through Elizabeth Warren and Cory Booker, politicians with an agenda to try and go after him, would people have seen that as a gaffe? I don't think so. I guess that's my point.
Steve Ratner was in the room and said this is being taken out of context. Is the bigger issue, Michael Steele, among Democrats that Joe Biden is saying, I'm going to reach across the aisle because the way you get things done is you've got to work with the other half of the room. And there's an enormous part of the Democratic Party who's saying, no, this is the time of the resistance. We ain't getting played by Mitch McConnell again.
Well, I think the problem is not that it makes him seem like a segregationist or that it's seen through a prism of race. The problem is it makes him seem old. I'm all for working together. I'm all for reaching across the aisle. But bragging about working with the Dixiecrats is like bragging about working with the Whigs. I expected him to end that avail by telling the reporters to get off his lawn. This makes him seem like a man out of time in a party that is trending more and more towards youth and energy and a more inclusive, multicultural society.
What is out of time with saying, I need to work with the other side to fix a problem? Why is that out of step? Do we have to live in the Donald Trump world that he is setting up that says we cannot, we have to stay divided? And so to me, and I come in as a business guy, and Steph, you come from that world also. And
you got to play ball.
Thousands of hours I spent in my life with reprehensible, people I disagree with. In those cases, segregation is reprehensible because I'm trying to fix a problem, get something done.
Here's the issue that I have with this, though. Joe Biden hasn't been able to convince most voters, including some activists, that he can work with Mitch McConnell and Republicans who don't want to work with him. That's why people find it frustrating. He seems to say, we can do this chummy thing that we did 35 years ago, and that may not work anymore. I don't think it's about the liberals being like, we can't stand to work with anybody. It's like, dude, you can't convince us that Mitch McConnell's going to give you a Supreme Court justice either.
But one of the issues is you've got a portion of the Democratic parties that are saying, it's time for a revolution.
Right.
Let's break the system. Let's start over.
Right.
And while there is a big portion of the country suffering, there's a bigger portion of the country that's saying, listen, things aren't great for me, but I don't want to scrap things. And if the Democratic Party goes very far left, they miss the opportunity to get those voters in the middle who say, hold on, I don't want to start over.
I can't think of any of the top 5 Democrats who are actually real liberals. I mean, like, Pete Buttigieg is about as central as you can get. Senator Harris is about as centrist as you can get. The only far liberal that you've got running is Bernie Sanders, and he's cratering. So
Elizabeth Warren also, I would put very high.
Even Warren, I don't think she's as far left as Bernie Sanders. So the fear of this overtake by a bunch of AOC clones, I just don't think that's happening. And I don't think Joe Biden is smart to say that I'm the resistance against that.
But you're talking about the real world and real policy. And I turn to you, Michael Steele. You have millions of people every night who tune into Fox News. And while the majority of candidates might be somewhat centrist and don't have far left opinions, Fox News would tell you they do. Fox News would tell you, and the president, that every Democrat running is a left-wing loon who wants to take away all of your rights as a citizen and give them to someone from another country. So while Jason might be right in fact, people hear what they want to hear.
Sure, and I think arguing that Elizabeth Warren isn't on the left is not going to be a winning argument for these centrist voters. Look, Donald Trump has a very hard ceiling in his support. He gets about 45% tops. The only way he wins this election is to convince the American people that the Democratic candidate is unacceptable, too far to the left, a radical socialist. And that's what he's going to do every day from now until Election Day. And I want people to work across the aisle. I think we need to get back to that. We need to get back to bipartisanship. We need to get back to working together to get things done. I just don't think citing examples of working with Dixiecrats in the 1970s is the kind of argument that is going to convince people you're the right candidate to do that.
All right, so that is the advice Michael Steele is giving to Joe Biden ahead of the debate. Donnie, I didn't invite you here for your fashion sense. I brought you here because you are the marketing and I mean, it's obviously Jason.
You compliment the guy with the orange shirt and the blue checker tie.
And I'll believe that. I mean, this was like a pretty good. You are here. My favorite segment of your show on Saturday nights is debate prep.
Thank you.
let's say you are in the war room with a number of these candidates, 6 days to go. I want to tick through. What do you tell them to do to stand out? Let's start with Tim Ryan.
Tim Ryan, is interesting. With him, I say, show me your authentic self. I would say to all of them, don't get up there and do policy spiel.
Donnie,
but I'll tell you what I mean by that.
Doesn't everybody say be your authentic self?
But you didn't let me finish what that means in his case, because he does have another. He's a Youngstown guy. He's a football player. He's kind of a street guy. He's, basically everybody's going to be lensing it through who can duke it out with Trump. I mean, that's where you're going to. I always say, imagine on stage this person, this man and woman versus Trump. And if I'm Tim Ryan, I want to show that level of strength. And you know what? I'm a guy from the Midwest. You grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth. I'm from the streets. I'm a Youngstown guy. Look what I did there. Show that. Make me be Mr. Youngstown. That's what I do.
You agree that with Donnie that we should be looking at those candidates who can face off against Trump, because Trump is going to be live tweeting the entire debate and try to get in the conversation.
It depends on who you are. I wouldn't do that if I'm, Tim Ryan. Look, he used to be my congressman. I know the Chevy Cruise. I know Youngstown. I know that area. Tim Ryan needs to show, hey, I'm here, right? Because he has a different strategy than some of the other people. If I'm Joe Biden, I'm saying, hey, I can take on Trump. If I'm Senator Harris, I'm saying, hey, I can win the coalition that Hillary Clinton had before, and I can win this election. Everybody's got a different strategy depending on where they are on the numbers. If I'm Beto O'Rourke, I'm saying, hey, I'm still here. Remember, I can do the things that Joe Biden can do, but also I can be a lot more charismatic when I do that. They all have sort of different challenges going in, and I don't think their branding is going to be the same. The biggest concern, honestly, is that second night, which is basically the Hunger Games death round. And I think anybody who screws up, when you've got Joe Biden, and you've got Bernie Sanders, and you've got Pete, and you've got Kamala Harris, you don't want to make a mistake in that round, because that person's going to take a huge hit in the polls.
Steph, it's all about here and not here. You have to get them to fall in love with you as a human. Because I think once people start going, and then healthcare and this, I think people kind of shut down. I need to be left with, at the end of the night, who is that human I want to invite in my living room a bit more over the next few weeks? And that can take very, very, very different form. If I was Joe Biden, the way I handle this thing and come after him, I would elevate myself and say, hey, guys, look, maybe you guys are new to this. I've been doing this for 50 years, and unfortunately, you do have to work with people you can't stand, and that's the way you fix problems, and almost kind of be the grand elder statesman in the room. That's where the way I would handle Biden. Some of the other people that are, anybody else you want to tee anything about for me? Or?
Mayor Pete, what are you telling him?
Mayor Pete, it's interesting. Mayor Pete, I would come back to the veteran part. I think a Democrat...
He hasn't really talked about that much.
I would somehow come back. The thing that makes him so different is, we all know his resume at Harvard and Rhodes Scholar and all. And
6 languages.
And the guy decides, you know what? I'm not going to go work for McKinsey right now. I'm going to go to Afghanistan. There's a lot of talk. And that, he's got this great line is while Trump was doing Celebrity Apprentice Season 7, I was packing my bags for Afghanistan. I'd like to feel a lot of that in there.
I see Mayor Pete right now. He's got a shooting of an unarmed black man in his city that he needs to talk about. He's had numerous issues with the police in South Bend. He needs to be prepared to explain how he can represent a full coalition of the Democratic Party when he couldn't necessarily keep control of his own police force when he was mayor. That's his biggest concern going forward, especially if he's going to be on stage with somebody like Senator Harris, who can say, hey, I'm an AG. I knew how to handle cops, or Joe Biden, who says, hey, under the Obama administration, we made sure the DOJ went after things like that. Pete Buttigieg has got to address that issue before he can start talking about what a great veteran he was.
Michael, Donnie mentioning that Pete should lean on the fact that he's a vet. What about those who didn't make the stage? Is it game over for them? Seth Moulton not going to be there. Does he have a chance come a week and a half from now after we're digesting the outcome of the debates?
Probably not. I mean, lacking that kind of primetime exposure, I think Governor Bullock may have a chance to fight his way onto the debate in the next stage. But remember, it gets harder at every stage of the game, right? You have to survive in advance, and it's very hard to get back on that stage if you're not there. I think that the veteran card is exactly the right thing for Mayor Pete to play. I think that Donnie Deutsch was exactly right about Tim Ryan. I think all of these guys in this first debate have to tell a positive story about themselves, what they bring to the fight against Trump, what they bring to this campaign.
Donnie, quickly, just before we go, you said don't go policy, but leaning on policy is exactly what's helped Elizabeth Warren in the last 6 weeks. When she started the campaign with cracking a beer,
that's her brand,
that
but by
didn't
the way,
work for her.
this is not in 60-second bites. One final thing on this. If any of the moderators or the DNC incorporates Trump tweets, shame on you. Do not let him produce this event. It will show a weakness. I mean, if you let him into this event, you are fools, and you're showing your weakness.
Oof. Jason, Michael, thank you all so much. Donnie, stick around. We have more to cover, and we have to turn now to breaking news out of the Middle East, where an American